Welcome to ArcisFX Live.
Hi everyone, happy new year. Hope everyone's good. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to be straight with you. I am a little bit hungover, just a little. So it's going to be a bit of a chill one today, hopefully. Thank you for everyone joining us. I hope everyone's good and enjoyed the festivities wherever you are around the world. Hello, Control Alt Alpha, thanks for being here early. I'll try no pressure. I'll try not to disappoint. Firstly, just apologies for I did a solo members only live stream. Let me put a chart up while we're chatting. I did a solo members only live stream Christmas Eve, and for whatever reason, just the way I'm sorting my office out at the moment, I didn't see the comments which were coming in from our private group. And if you're not in our private group, check out the link in the description. We'd love to have you. So apologies for missing some of your comments. I thought it was a bit more of a lonely session than it actually was. So I did miss some comments from some of our regulars. So apologies for that. Hi, Dana. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Good morning. I'm guessing, okay, yeah, where you are in part of the world. That's pretty cool. So obviously New Year's Day is not a particularly good day to assess the direction of the markets. There's always a little bit of action in some places, but doesn't ordinarily give us any kind of idea of what to expect from January. But we'll just take a look to start with, and any questions you've got about the market, any concerns you've got about January, we'll have a look at. I've been trying to go through some of the tokens and coins today to have a look at what's good for altcoin gems tomorrow. But also just a reminder, James has a great video out today covering the traditional stocks and commodities market. So if you haven't already checked that out, please make sure you do, and like and subscribe and leave a comment because it really helps with the algo. So check that video out, really good stuff. And James, of course, will be back for a live stream again on Sunday, and I'll be back tomorrow with altcoin gems. But let's just have a look. So firstly, Total 3 ES is on the screen, and Total 3 ES is, of course, representative of the total crypto market cap, excluding the big players, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins now, because stablecoins are taking quite a significant chunk of the crypto market at the moment. So what does this chart look like? Well, I think for anybody who's got any experience whatsoever in charting or understands how to interpret this, I'm just going to take a sip of coffee. And thank you to nobody for buying me a coffee USB heat map or something, or heat map, excuse me, heating thing for my desk. So I appreciate nobody buying me that Christmas present. I had some great gifts. So I had some really great gifts. In fact, I think I'm wearing one right now. Right. So Total 3 ES 5-day. Now, this is obviously a longer term thing, and you can see that altcoins are at key support here. So it's make or break sort of time. Now we've got some nice confluence with the 200 MA as well on this. So it's very significant. And previously, this is just for context, August 2024. This is October 2023, essentially kind of where the bull run really kicked off. Bitcoin bull run kicked off, and these are the previous cycle tops, showing how we're nowhere near where we were even in terms of market cap and the size of the market. And it's obviously it's a little bit relative because Bitcoin's grown significantly as well. So you have to look at this with a pinch of salt. But we do need to have a bounce from here, and if we do, this could give us some serious altcoin movement. And if we just look to highlight, this is around 500. This is $500 billion here. We're currently sitting at $500 billion, and a move up to here would be essentially taking us pretty close to $1 trillion market cap. So lots of potential opportunities. And when we see charts like this, it's very easy to, hi Lola, great to see you too. Thanks for being here. It's very easy to think, well, this is great. The altcoin season is going to kick off. Everything's really good. Well, no, because ultimately this could invalidate. But the idea is that we can start prepping for a potential altcoin season and highlighting key tokens that are potentially at long-term support. And then using this as well as the TA on the coins and tokens we're thinking of potentially investing in, everything maybe from XRP all the way down to some low caps. You can use this as a line in the sand. So if you do see a break below this diagonal line here and we start heading lower, which would be, and again, mostly it's been wicks really, which have been touched it. So the fact that we're kind of sitting quite pretty here at the moment is either a good or a bad thing, right? So again, lots of ambiguity in the market. But if you are taking an altcoin position and maybe you're starting to enter some of your positions, right? Say you enter 10K, and you spread it out across a few altcoins, and then you see this line break, right? That will be your signal to think, you know what, actually, I need to try and exit my positions and reevaluate to see where we're coming down to. And then maybe a move back down to here, right? Maybe on the cards. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the case, but we need to, of course, trade signals and not hopes, wishes, and dreams. Rainbows are all very nice to look at and everything, but they're fast to disappear. So the idea here is that we could have some significant potential upside for altcoins, but of course, Bitcoin needs to play along. So let's have a look. Firstly, let us know in the comments how your New Year's was, of course, and what your trading activity was like over the holiday period. If you're like me, you weren't trading overly heavily because of obviously quite stagnant conditions, but I have taken a few positions, and let us know what you were doing, any wins, any losses, what were you trading, what you're looking at, what you're eyeing up for the new year. The usual fervor around XRP is again kind of heating up, and so yeah, just let us know what you're thinking of trading, how things are being, if you're frustrated with the market in any way, shape, or forms, and your general idea of your general thoughts on what you're expecting from the market. But of course, as always, in order for altcoins to have some love, well, here's actually. Typically, you would say that in order for altcoins to have some love, you need Bitcoin to play ball. But if we are entering 2026 potentially with a decoupling of sorts from the altcoin market, right? Given the fact that a lot has changed in the last few years. As an example, Ethereum clearly has a use case. It's fundamentally part of the crypto infrastructure with a lot of tokens and coins use its blockchain to build on, etc., etc. And likewise, Solana also is leading the way in terms of blockchain tech and tokenized stocks and so forth. So a lot of these assets are starting to, as we've said previously, are starting to stand up to Bitcoin and say, you know what, I don't need you anymore. And the idea behind this is that, we've talked about this previously, that Bitcoin will become maybe an elder statesman of sorts, and the rest of the market can have love. Now, the only reason I'm saying this, of course, is because if Bitcoin heads into a bear market, or rather extended consolidation, then what does that leave for the altcoin market? Well, typically the altcoin market needs Bitcoin to be either sitting pretty with a bullish posture or heading upwards with organically for the altcoins to move. But I think 2026 may be offering some surprises in terms of how the altcoins start to decouple. Now we look at ZEC and Zcash. Let's just jump in with that if I can find it. If you look at Z and Zcash, right, this has been, you think of where Bitcoin's been since October, and how it's really been struggling, and these 1,000% gains essentially from Zcash, and excuse me, not 1,000%, excuse me, I think from the bottom it's 1,000%. Let's just double check. Don't want to give you false. Yeah, there you go, 1,000%. So the idea that ZEC has managed to put in significant gains and is now still on its way. Again, this is a setup which we posted last altcoin gems, I think, just last week, and we posted it when it was around here. On the back of this double bottom potential hidden bullish divergence, and we've already hit kind of TP1. So congratulations if you traded that setup on the back of altcoin gems last week. But the reason why ZEC is moving, because it has its own independent narrative now. People are seeing it not just as a token which is moving, of course, compared to the rest of the market. It's also its use case, and it's attracting a lot of attention. And it's very easy to see potentially that Bitcoin being dethroned of sorts, not in terms of being the biggest crypto, but in terms of being a market leader. Think about a king losing its power, and essentially, there's a television series which I have been watching called Foundation from Apple TV. I don't know if any of you guys watch it, but the idea is that the monarchy over time is this galactic monarchy slowly losing power and influence. To the point where it becomes almost irrelevant. There's an argument that Bitcoin is not going to go the way of the dodo, but potentially just becomes more of a figurehead and a store of value like gold. And it is going to be, other cryptos like ZEC, like XRP, like Ethereum, which are going to be leading the pack. So it's going to be a very interesting year as a result of this. And you can see the reason why we had ZEC as an altcoin gem last week is because, well, we've already put in, following that, we've already put in a tidy 26%. You add 3x or so, 4x leverage on that, and you've got, a decent size trade. But in terms of ZEC, just to talk about ZEC for a second, again, because the market is hesitant, ZEC is moving because Bitcoin is sitting pretty. If Bitcoin, and there's a bullish narrative for ZEC, but if Bitcoin starts heading lower, so will ZEC, right? Or at least it'll reset a little bit. So we have to be very cautious and not just think, well, ZEC is just going to ignore everything Bitcoin does. It won't, right? Now it will go to the moon if Bitcoin starts breaking through 89K and heads up from here, which is the title of this video, the battle for 89K. A significant level for Bitcoin. But the key thing, so I'm very conscious of my left hand. I've been talking about it with the team behind the scenes and just trying to highlight that it's quite probably a little bit annoying me moving my hand around like this. It's because I've got a bad back, right? And I use it to rest. But I do have a desk now which I can move up and down. So I'll try and get at the habit of that. So please tell me off in the comments if you see my left hand flailing around. But yeah, but if Bitcoin heads down from here, ZEC will reset. And as a result of that risk, you can't really say, well, you could say to yourself in a bullish condition, you say, oh, look, ZEC's got a bull flag, right? ZEC's in a bull flag, and therefore just buy the breakout. Well, in bullish conditions, you could do that. And if Bitcoin sits pretty, then again, this could play out. We could hit our TP within a few days for sure. But this isn't a game of if and when. This is a game of us being in manageable positions in hesitant market conditions. So you might see a breakout from ZEC here, and some of you may trade this bull flag as an example, and maybe see a breakout and then come in for the SR flip of this upper level, right? That's certainly a play, and then ride it up from here, right? Sure, you can do that, but ultimately, the further we get away from this key support level, which we really haven't tapped properly other than on a macro basis, right? And we still haven't really properly tapped the 200 MA either. If Bitcoin takes a tumble or starts moving down, right, and that would just mean a break probably below 86.5K, which is the bottom of the current trading range, right, the very narrow trading range, then ZEC's just going to most likely come back down here, right, and that's going to be the way you want to enter, ultimately, because the closer you get to this point, the more probabilities of a reversal happen, and ultimately, because there's a lot of risk in the market at the moment, right, don't be fooled by this bullish movement, because if Bitcoin comes down, ZEC could just do this. And therefore, if you enter positions up here, you're going to be left holding the baby. Whereas if you come down here, flush with 200 MA, you're going to have buyers and sellers struggling around for a little bit and giving opportunities to reposition or get out. So when the market is very hesitant, you've got to be very, very cautious in terms of where you're entering. And if Bitcoin had broken above 89K, and this was the move based off that, then there's a bit more of a narrative to buy up to buy the break of the bull flag. Right, the bull flag's not in our ideal position because it's just below resistance, of course. But this is the idea. So we still have to be very, very cautious at the moment. And even though ZEC looks like it's priming up for another level up, as traders, right? I mean, as a trader, I'm not going to ideally come in here because it's just the risk is too great, right? And when dealing with volatile assets, we need to be a little bit more concerned about our entry point and mitigating that risk than we do trying to capture the next move. And this is the whole game at the moment, right? So we might talk about this in Altcoin Gems tomorrow, but I'll be looking for some fresh setups. Right. Bitcoin help us, please. Let's have a look at ADA. Let's have a quick look at ADA. Hi, James. Thanks for dropping in. I hope you're okay. I'm still confused by the whole Arcis drone thing. Are you like on the beach flying it, talking to us? I'm like, right, Bitcoin help us, please. Helps us, please. All right, now you're asking Bitcoin to help you, right? I was getting a bit confused. Right, let's have a look at ADA because I know you asked about this lower the last session and I completely ignored you, so I'm sorry. So let's look at ADA for a start, and then we'll jump into Bitcoin. Where is ADA? We got ADA? Yeah, here's ADA. Yeah, okay. Right, so we have had a bearish setup for this, which has played out, but we didn't get our ideal entrance point. So we did. This was all right, actually. We did have this bull flag, which we could have you bought the breakdown of, and we're almost at a short target. But again, the idea for this setup, I think posted in Groove, I can't remember when, was to essentially try and come in as close to the 200 MA as possible and then get that entrance in and ride it down. And because we didn't get that, I didn't enter a trade here. Now, some of you could have entered the trade on this break of the this ascending channel. Pretty good confluence actually with the break happening just at resistance level, but not ideal really, because ADA's been straddling this support line in a very strange way. But ADA unfortunately is really suffering a little bit. So let's just remove that short play, because we didn't quite, I mean, we did get the entrance there if you caught it, but I don't think that was, I can't remember. No, oh no, maybe that was, I can't remember. I'm getting confused with the setups. So, but now we are approaching support. So let's just have a look. Let's just scroll back. Let's just switch to the daily chart and have a quick look at what ADA's doing. Right. Okay. So some order blocks down here, suggesting that they're not overly confident about this level here, but you can see this is a bouncing off point and we're arriving at this point here. So let's just say that this is lower accumulation, right? And this is still an area which is going to be quite significant, but you just see the steepness of ADA coming down, how quickly it's coming down. It's not really coming in for a soft landing, but there is a play at this support level, which is essentially around 0.32, around 0.31, $32, and you can see, you know, we could see a crash landing here of sorts. So let's just see what the probabilities of that are. So firstly, lots of selling activity still. Not many people looking to come in at this level, but there is a play here. So let's just zoom into the 4-hour. Now, here we go. So yeah, you can see people have already started to try and pick up at this support level. So if you do see, if you do hit this support level, you could approach this as a bounce play. So what is a bounce play? A bounce play is the presumption that we're not going to have this range tradable, right? That the essentially ADA is going to, you know, touch support. Some buyers will give us a little bit of a push, and then we continue down, right? So so this kind of bounce play would be you come in with a position here. The way I would do it is typically a little bit leverage, right? And you'd come in here, and then you would essentially just ride the bounce, which some buyers will be here because it is obviously previously significant support. If TradingView won't let me get back there, you see. So, you know, and just benefit from the fact that there will be some buyers there, at least a few, and based on the market conditions determine where your TP is. So you might say to yourself, okay, so the play for ADA at the moment is going to be this. I'm going to get that off that thing. Right, here we go. So you do something like this, something like that, right? And you just say, okay, really straightforward. I'm going to come in here for a hard buy, right? And I'm going to just take profits here. This little bounce play, right? Because we haven't tapped it yet. So it's the first touch ultimately for ADA. So that's probably the only play with ADA at the moment. And then, of course, if we lose that level, we've got a potential short. But really, the short move has happened. And right now, probably going to start seeing, if Bitcoin holds steady, maybe start to seeing a bit of a curve round here, right? But until we see a break back above this level, or we get back above this moving average, it's looking pretty dire for ADA at the moment, if I'm honest. So therefore, it would just be a very straightforward kind of bounce play, very, very short-term bounce play. So you're looking for something like this, boom, 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 and you just trade this, essentially. That would be the idea. So again, adapting your strategy based on the coin or token's behavior and what you can expect from it. And these first touches of these areas can be pretty good. Now, obviously, if you're approaching it like a falling knife, then, you know, don't enter. But you can see that the price action is starting to slow a little bit as people are front running potential support here. So that's the only play. It's not a particularly high risk setup, because you're at long-term support. You've got some significant support, and therefore it's very manageable in terms of stop losses. And if you see a candle body close below this, of course, you look to get out. And if you do get a breakdown, you probably get the bearish retest. So it's quite manageable, but don't overextend yourself and don't expect it to come in here and trade this range as originally was suggested by the chart, because that's probably not going to work out. But that's ADA. I hope that helps. Lola, yeah, not right now. No, I don't know what the beach is like at this time of year in South Africa. Right, where are we? Okay, so let's jump into Bitcoin and let's see what Bitcoin is doing, because the name of the game of this video is the battle for 89K. So firstly, let me just take a sip of my. In fact, you know what? Let's just remind everybody. Let's just remind everybody of the wonderful opportunity which we have for our private group. So here's James, just for a second.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
Thank you, James. Nicely done. Okay, so this is Bitcoin 4-hour chart. Now, the last few weeks, I've just been repeating myself really because ultimately it's we haven't seen much. Excuse me. So we've had this bear flag. So let's just zoom out. Very straightforward. So we've had this markdown phase which begun in October, as we talked about when we talk about ZEC and how interesting it is. How ZEC has been essentially launched its 1,000% rally when Bitcoin was going down, which is why we should pay attention to ZEC for sure, Zcash. So we're in this bear flag, and we broke down. We lost the 3-day 200 MA, and if we just put the 4-hour 200 MA on there as well, just dump that on there. Just tidy that up. Let's just have a look. Right, so here's the, you see, we've got this cluster of the 4-hour 200 MA and the 3-day 200 MA, and you can see the price action has been stuck below it, right? Really straightforward. Now, you would presume looking at this that unless we break above here, we can be coming down. So this is essentially why we've got this short play here with 82K essentially being the floor. This is where we've been in a very, very narrow trading range between about 86.5K and 89 and 90K. Now, it talked about, if you want to learn a little bit more about why potentially things have been super stagnant over the holiday period, which is not untypical for holiday, but check out Bitcoin update from earlier in the week as I get into briefly, but I get into how potentially the people have been rolling over some of their positions following the Boxing Day timeout sorts of the. So I'm totally hungover. So there's a big oh my god, my brain's not working. So check out Bitcoin update. Check out Bitcoin update from early in the week, and I just get into the reasons why. Of course, we've had quite a narrow training range, and the reason why January could be quite explosive. And essentially, obviously we've got the holiday period, right, for sure, but we've also had potentially a rollover of people's positions into January, which means essentially that once we do start getting breaks above 89K and below 86.5K as what has been local support since the last couple of weeks, right? It could be quite explosive as a result. So that's the general idea. Check out Bitcoin update for that. My mind's just gone a bit blank on that, but there you go. So this is where we are now. In group, I'm going to be straight. There's been we've had lots of conversations about people zooming in, right, and taking positions around these areas. Now, one thing I have on my list to talk about today is the concept which I've been referring to as no man's land, right? And MD, I think they had a question last week about it, which I completely ignored, so I'm sorry. So what do I mean when I say no man's land? So obviously, I tend to show charts around the 4-hour on the 4-hour time frame because it's a good representation of. You can kind of peek into the minor trend, which is more visible on the 15-minute, 30-minute charts, and you can also visualize the primary trend to a degree. But obviously, the intermediate trend is a good balance. So, obviously, if you are a scalper and you're a day trader and you're trading the 15-minute and the 5-minute chart, when I talk about Bitcoin hovering around 86.5K, which is current local support, right? And I say that's no man's land. Obviously, when you're looking at the 5-minute chart, or say the 30-minute chart, let's have a look, right? Like this. And I say that this level here is no man's land. You're like, what are you talking about, Paul? Well, that's the support. That's the bottom of the range. Yes, that's correct. And of course, but the reality is that no man's land, what I mean by that is ultimately that no man's land is where we don't have a tradable position. Okay, now what do I mean? Now Bitcoin is it's not just about trading Bitcoin, it's about trading the rest of the market. So when Bitcoin is essentially sitting here now on the 4-hour chart, the intermediate trend, even though on the macro level, this appears to be like when we're at 86.5K, the bottom of the range, the reality is on the intermediate trend, right? It's just below resistance, right? With support below, which we haven't tapped. And therefore, I'm not going to be entering with further an altcoin long trade or even a Bitcoin trade just below resistance, right? And you could obviously trade the range, right? But we don't want to be taking positions below resistance on the possibility of say taking profits at 96k until we've had bullish confirmation. So no man's land is a place where essentially we're not getting sufficient trading signals, because ultimately this is the range, right, which Bitcoin is currently trading in, right? Okay, ultimately, right, that might sound stupid because we haven't touched it, but this is ultimately the range. This is strong resistance. This is support, okay, and this is local resistance, and also mainstream resistance is also the same as local resistance, right? So for me to take an altcoin long, I need Bitcoin to be here ultimately, or approaching here, because when it is and it heads towards this, the probabilities of a reversal significantly increase. And then people will also be taking their altcoin positions on the premise that we're approaching long-term support, right? Here, long-term support rather, long-term support in terms of the last couple of months, right? So medium-term support, right? And then the market will start to move as a result of that, because the probabilities of it heading up from there increase. Whereas when we're trading in this range, it's still a bit of a binary proposition in terms of up or down, right? Which is not where we want to be in terms of trading. So that's why I call it no man's land, because it's not in a great place, because we don't enter long trades just below resistance, right? We don't do that, full stop. That's just the rule, right? And when we know we've got all of this air below us and the price actually very easily come back down here, this is where I want to be for an altcoin long, right? It helps mitigate risk. And you'll see the market start to move as we approach this, as long as we do it organically. And therefore, when I mention no man's land, obviously if you're trading the 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute chart, whatever, or that rather the minor trend, then of course for you 86.5k is essentially what 82k is for me. But the 4-hour chart is arguably one of the most widely viewed and traded charts, and therefore, and the intermediate trend is the most relevant. So if we're using Bitcoin as a signal for altcoin longs, we need it not to be in no man's land, not to be below resistance in terms of the intermediate trend perspective, and it needs to be closer to here. And therefore, this has been very frustrating for traders, because ultimately, you got to think about who's going to enter their altcoin positions down here when we're just potentially going to run into resistance like this and get rejected, right? And the longer this goes on, the higher the risk of a move down. And the whole idea would be, of course, that we do not, we either enter a long trade here, or we enter a long trade here once we've broken above it. Those are the two positions, essentially. This narrow range is just insufficient. It's just insufficient because ultimately it is in the middle or closer to resistance than here. So it's obviously subjective, and obviously if you are trading lower time frames, then no man's land to you is going to be slightly different. But considering the fact that overhead resistance isn't just local resistance, it is significant resistance on the intermediate and even the primary trend, right? So the 89k is significant, unlike the weekly chart. 89k is significant on the daily chart. So you're not just dealing with a normal range here, right? You're dealing with essentially major resistance overhead and entering a long position, even at local support, right? In this narrow range, you don't have probabilities in your favor. And of course, you can enter here and then you can get lucky and you can move up from here and you've got a low average price, but that's not really repeatable, because as traders, we need to work off signals. Now, the importance of signals with volatile assets in terms of waiting for confirmation is extremely important. And therefore, we've had really bad trading conditions. And one of the reasons why, with the exception of a few, the altcoin market has just been sitting pretty or bleeding, right? Ultimately, because this is not a good position to take it. The market needs a confirmation of a direction. And if we go back to total 3, this is reflective of that. Look at all these candles in the same area since this has been happening, right? We're waiting for Bitcoin to either break above 89k or come back down to support where people can start entering their positions. And if we switch to Bitcoin dominance, which I'm sure I can't find, there it is. Way, congratulations to me. Again, direction hasn't been chosen yet. This would mean essentially poor altcoin performance. And probably Bitcoin will be selling off if that happens. And this would mean better altcoin performance. And we haven't seen that yet because of what Bitcoin's position. And therefore, that's why I call these areas no man's land. So I hope that makes sense. Any dissenting opinions? Let's have a look. I think there's an ascending triangle on the day chart, perhaps. Let's have a look. Ascending triangle on the day chart. Yeah, there's always a descending triangle on Bitcoin somewhere. I'm just joking, of course, but we'll talk about triangles with Bitcoin in a second. Yeah. There's an ascending triangle last week. Where is it? I think I deleted it because there was but then it got we broke out. I can't find it. But yeah, this is obviously a fresh one, looking a bit better. Yeah, so this is cool. Now the issue is, so what is an ascending triangle to Bitcoin, right? And what do I mean by that question? What is it to Bitcoin? Let's just put these markers on here. Now, you would look at this as, usually I get excited with ascending triangles in terms of the altcoin market because they're such a easy thing to trade with regard to they're such a straightforward and easy thing to trade. Yeah. Cryptic Paul. Yeah, that's probably me in my personal life as well. Thanks for that. I know, just a spelling mistake. So with a normal asset, let's just say not Bitcoin, right? Or even an altcoin, right? This can be with a medium or high cap, pretty decent to confirm direction, right? And obviously, so you get a break in the upwards like this. You've got a conversation to yourself. You can essentially come in on the retest of this area, right? Like this, you've got a proposition and so forth. I mean, if the pattern wasn't as complete as this, and say we broke out here, you could say, right, either going to come in here on the flip side, or I'm going to come in here back in the pattern. So you've got options. But what Bitcoin likes to do, and seeing as Bitcoin is a very manipulative asset, it likes to, traders, big players like to use these symmetrical triangles as fake outs to screw with everybody and mess with everybody and take their liquidity. So what you typically will see from Bitcoin is you'll see this, and then this, and then this, right? And this is why symmetrical triangles with Bitcoin need to be laughed at ultimately. Now, we may have a nice clean break from here, and everyone will say, look, Paul, this was a textbook break of an ascending triangle, but I'm very much down it's going to be that, right? I think there's a possibility, right? Because the fact that we're coming towards the peak is a little bit better, right? Because if you have a breakout if you have a breakdown of the triangle here as an example, there's more of a risk of this sort of price action, right? But because we're coming to the tip essentially of the triangle, there's probably more chance of a more binary move because there's less options available to people. So if you say we come into this over the next few days and we break out from here, then again, all we've got on the flip side is this horizontal line here to come in on. So we may have a cleaner break as a result of this triangle being almost fulfilled, but always look at ascending triangles with Bitcoin with a little bit of skepticism because there are opportunities for people to manipulate, right? And therefore, if you see like little things like this, hi, and then it comes back down, but it's just like, just ignore it, right? You need to say to yourself, right, this is the previous swing high. I want a confirmation break of the symmetrical triangle in the direction I want, but I also need it to break above the last swing high to really bring buyers to the market. And then you can start thinking about, am I going to enter here or am I going to enter here? And then you can start having that bullish conversation. But if you just see something like, this, hi mom, and then go back down, it's like, that's not tradable, right? It's not a big enough move because we haven't broken out of the range. We're really trading that much. So, this is the whole game. So it's all about context. But yes, very good catch. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Control Alpha. Good catch. Let's see what else is happening. So let's just, so here we go. You can see we've got clear of this diagonal resistance now, but we've got to get above a clear break of 90K. We need clear break of 90K. And I was looking at the heat maps earlier today, and it's changing from 24 hours. So a couple of days ago, just before New Year's, sellers started to evaporate a little bit above 90, and now they've reappeared a little bit more flush with 89K, suggesting there's a slight bearish bias here. But this chart is probably quite informative in terms of what we want to be seeing from the price action, how we want to be trading it. So these are not predictions, right? And these will not necessarily play out as we expect, but we have to frame what we want from Bitcoin in our minds to be successful traders, and we always need to be making actions based on, are the probabilities in my favor here? So this is why I create charts like this. So this is the best entry zone prior to a confirmed break of 89K, prior to a break, because obviously before we've had a confirmed break, right, we got to presume we're just going to be drifting down at some point, right, to come back down here, right? So that's just perfectly logical and fine, right? We can't say I'm going to enter at 89K up here because that's right below resistance. And we can only do that once we've had a confirmed break, as we've suggested, right? Ideally above this level, and then we can look to come back down here. And therefore, this box is the best entry following a confirmed break above 89K. And if you frame all your setups and you frame your charts like this, it's very easy to stop yourself from making poor trading decisions, because ultimately, there's a lot of people which will get frustrated and they'll look to come in, as we've just talked about, at local support, right? And then it will just roll over and come down here and then reverse, right, potentially, or head lower. And you're not in a good position to mitigate risk as a result. So, you can trade this range. And if you'd been trading this range, that would have been fine, okay? But ultimately, you have to acknowledge the fact that you're just trading the range. So your strategy is, because you're in no man's land, because you're not at the spot, you're just going to trade this. You're going to go in here and take profits here. That's it. You're not looking to enter a position in this range, to take profits up here. For this play, that play just isn't going to work right now. That play is only coming into focus when we see something like this. So that's the whole game. And if you approach things like this, you're going to be more successful. Now, what does that mean for you as a trader in crypto? Does it mean you're trading more or less? It means you're trading less, right? So a lot of new traders will be very much, they'll be very much like, they tend to trade a lot. They tend to try and trade a lot, and they'll take positions, they'll win some, they'll lose some, they'll gain confidence, they'll lose confidence, they'll pull their hair out, they'll grow their hair back, and it's a bit of a, an all over the place thing. Now, if you're a scalp trader, you're a day trader, then of course that's your bread and butter. But if you are trying to capitalize off the sweet spot in crypto, which is significant moves. And what we're talking about significant moves are, we're talking 10, 20% from the high caps, 50+% from the mid to low caps. Now, how do you achieve that? You achieve that by trading less, by choosing your trades wisely, by cherry picking them, and meaning that you aim for less trades, but more successes. And I think you'll find as you develop as a trader in the crypto space, or you venture from, or you expand, as we are here doing at Arcis, from traditional stocks and commodities into the crypto space, you have to approach it slightly differently, because in the crypto space, the stars align, right? Only every now and again, and in hesitant market conditions. Now, obviously, in bullish conditions, it's a different game. In bullish conditions, you just essentially planning setups, trading ranges, and then if you get a break up to the next range, you trade that one, right? You buy the bull flag breakouts and stuff, and it's easy peasy, everything just works. But most of the time, you have to wait for things to arrive in an ideal position for probabilities. Sometimes they don't arrive it. Like we looked at some short setups today, which, like with ADA, we were talking about, like don't necessarily play out the way we want them. They don't give us the flush kind of entry, and therefore we don't enter them, right? Because we don't have probabilities in our favor. And less experienced traders will look at that and go, I missed ADA, so I'm going to try and short it from here in frustration. And then it reverses, and it's a different game. So, but here's the beauty of it. In crypto, there are so many different assets to trade. As you can see, there's so many different assets to trade. If you miss one short opportunity because it wasn't where you needed it to be to mitigate risk, there's always going to be another one, right? And if you do it that way, what you'll end up having is repeatable and consistent trades throughout the month, maybe just 2 or 3, right? Which give you 30 or so %, either with a bit of leverage or just spot, right? Consistently. And that is ultimately all we need as traders, right? We don't need to be the rock star trading every single day or even every single week, because ultimately some weeks, certainly like recently, the conditions aren't going to be in our favor. And it doesn't matter how many times you take your canoe down to the river. If it's stormy, you're going to end up having a bad experience, and you're going to end up just leaving the day completely soaked, if not, potentially dead and at the bottom of the river, right, or off a waterfall. So, and it's like I coming from the UK, right? we wish, for those sunny days, and when we get those sunny days, everyone rushes to the beach, right? Because there's their day. The day has arrived to enjoy that, to win, but the reality is that we don't get that sunshine very often. And in the crypto space, certainly on the back of 2025, it has been a little bit of a similar sort of thing. And if you approach it like that in trading, you're going to be more successful, but it's going to be a calmer deal, and it's going to be a waiting game, right? And some weeks you're just going to say, I'm not going to trade because, and that's the thing. And again, if you can put in the more time and you can find the setups and do that and so forth and pick your things. But a lot of people will do a plan, they'll have a system, they'll know quite rightly where the good place is, and they'll just ignore it because of FOMO. As Dana, as you just said, you suffer a lot from FOMO, right? And it is incredibly challenging to put that to one side, right? I remember, I don't want to, I'm not going to pick on anybody in our private group because everyone's amazing, and there's some really great crypto traders who are really coming into their own. But the conversation is, there's one gentleman in the group who's been super insightful in his analysis of crypto, and makes me feel good about the prospect of potentially having a holiday, because there's a couple of people in the group now I think I can just say, hey, you can depend on these two for the analysis while I'm away, which is great. But I did witness someone have enter a Bitcoin position, not in a place which I would have entered, and then they, for whatever reason, the trade went bad and they got stopped out, either through a mistake or otherwise. And it's no big deal. That happens to all of us. But this is the point. The response was, all right, I'm going to quickly jump back in. No. My advice was, no, don't do that. Because why are you immediately having to jump back in, right? Okay, you're immediately having to jump back in. No, it wasn't you. It's not you. It's all of us. That's the point. It's all of us, right? We've all done this, right? And I'm like, why are you jumping back in? Because I'm quite I really commit to tasks, right? And I struggle to let things go. And if I'm digging a hole, I won't stop till I'm finished, right? But the end of the day is that I have rules. I will never, ever, ever jump straight back into a trade, right? Unless there's very certain circumstances, right? After a winning or a losing trade, right? Because it's an emotional thing, and you're not trading with sound mind, and you don't have probabilities in your favor. Because how can you possibly enter a trade, have it go not the way you want, and then within a few minutes later have suddenly fixed whatever the problem was with, right? And then entered again to be winning? It doesn't make any sense, because clearly the market isn't as reacting as you thought it would be, and therefore you need to take a step back and just relax from it. And this is the game, and this is the problem, is that when you face with the crypto space, which is all about, it's all supposed to be sexy and, look at me, look at these gains I made, and all this kind of stuff, right? It really pushes you into this model. Now, there are certain circumstances where entering a trade rapidly after one is very important, and let me tell you what that would be. So let me just switch the chart so you've got something a little bit more interesting to look at while I'm yabbering on. Here's Bitcoin 2 hour, just slightly different perspective. And this chart, you've got what really is the POC down here? Let's have a quick look. Let's just check that. Let me just check this. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's quite interesting. Another argument for a move lower. So, if, say, for example, you've entered a highly volatile asset and you've taken a position and it's gone wrong, then there are ways to mitigate that, which you need to act quickly. So say you've had an asset which has moved very significantly. You've entered a trade on a bullish premise, and it's been invalidated very quickly. And because it's a volatile asset, you've lost. You start losing your position. You quickly exit it. You might have to quickly exit it as a loss because it's a highly volatile, maybe mid to low cap. And therefore you say, okay, my trade has gone wrong. I've entered 20K on this position. The trade has gone wrong. It's a very volatile asset. So I can't wait. I can't afford to wait for like the bearish retest to possibly get out. And therefore you cut your losses. You take a 10%, 20% hit on your trade. And then you target the support level below that. Right, directly below that, if there is one, right? And then you wait for a bounce there and you come back in. And then once it heads down, you then come back up, you benefit from that move. And I've seen that all the time. And I do that occasionally as well. But that is part of a plan. It's part of okay, I'm trading a highly volatile asset. This is a low cap, this is mid to low cap, whatever. And therefore, if this trade goes bad, I have to cut my losses because of the volatility. It could just tank 50%. I'm going to cut my losses. My aim is to make them back on a support bounce just below. Right. And then that is a reason to enter another trade straight away. But it's part of a unified strategy which you have, which before you enter such a high risk position. Whereas maybe you're trading a high cap, you will obviously won't have to worry about that because there'll be plenty of movement in order to get out or reposition if you've entered correctly. So there is a play to do that. But just being like, damn it, I've screwed this trade up, let's try again, is a losing strategy. Right. It's essentially what is it? Those you know, all of the coin machines and all the gambling machines you see in casinos, that's what they're about. They're about, you know, fear of missing out and frustration. Well, I've just spent $20 in quarters on this machine. I have to keep playing till I win, right? But at the end of the day, you're probably just going to walk out having lost $30 following that, or $40 following that, right? And just because some old granny over there is setting all the alarms off and she's won the jackpot, you know, you're in a room filled with 100 different rooms, 100 different machines, and only one of them is winning. And why do you think you're going to be the one which is winning? Just repeating it isn't going to do it. So FOMO is and probabilities and positioning in crypto are more important than anything, for sure. Let's have a look. Hardly any. Hi, Sahil, great to have you here. Happy New Year. Hardly any movement on BTC. Please let me know about silver as the Chinese are hoarding. Well, I'm going to refer you to James. I did look at James' video today. I can't remember if he touched base in silver. It was only a very brief update, but if check out James' latest video, and if he hasn't talked about silver today, he will be on Sunday. So let me defer to him because he's the expert on this area, if you don't mind. But yeah, silver's ripping it for sure. Silver's doing fantastic. Surprisingly, the commodities market is closed today, so the silver blast is due tomorrow. Unfortunately, we can't trade platinum in India. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, not my field, but very exciting at silver. For silver at the moment, for silver traders at the moment, it's fun times. But yeah, check out James' video today and his live stream on Sunday, as he'll be able to offer a lot more than me. Is Bitcoin 2 months chart RSI? Hi, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Is the BTC 2 months chart stochastic RSI cross up or down? Let's have a look. BTC 2 month. BTC 2 month. Drunk way too much last night. I haven't got. Hang on. Let's add that. Come on. Are you gonna? Where's my thing to add it? Come on. Give me the date. I can't. Where's my custom range tool? Come on. Let me add it. Where is it? There we go. 2 months. 2 months. This is interesting. Let's just see what this is about. Here we go. Add and 2 months. Right. Stock RSI. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. That one. Okay. Here we go. So what was the question? I'm very slow today. I apologize. Cross up or down. Stochastic RSI cross up or down. Well, we're heading down. Yeah, we're heading down for sure. Yeah, that's quite interesting. 2 months chart. So where were we? So just for context, everybody, the last oversold conditions on this chart were essentially the back end of the bear market on the 1st of November 2022. And you can see here that was the back end of, this was the previous bull cycle peak. And this is the beginning essentially of the bull run. And we were last there. So yeah, what does this potentially mean? Potential double top on the stochastic RSI? Well, we're rolling over. That's what it is essentially. And when could we possibly enter oversold conditions below the 20 line? Or probably around this area, maybe. It's difficult to tell, but certainly, you know, we're going to be approaching that. I don't think we're going to be properly oversold until at least 69k, maybe. So, but yeah, that's not a particularly good sign either. But again, you know, you also have to don't be. I mean, the 2 month is going to be pretty smooth, to be honest. I don't think we're going to have any of this, right? But typically, you know, this line we could have a move up from, right? That could happen. So, you know, there's still a potential for a reversal from here. I think if we're a bit steeper down here, then of course people will just be waiting. But yeah, not a great sign. That's definitely one for the bears, in support of the bears. Is that confirmed? That means we've got to wait 200. Is that confirmed? That means we've got to wait 200 days to go for it. Maybe, right? I mean, look, if the bear. I know this. I mean, this is a bit of an extreme conversation. What we were having earlier about waiting. No, I'm not suggesting we need to wait 200 days, but we're not going to go straight down from there either. We're going to have some trading opportunities. And again, as we've talked about previously, I make more money outside of investments shorting the market, right? So, and if you are in the private group and you think about joining our private group and you're looking at the market as the way it is and you're thinking, well, crypto's done, no. if we start entering a bear market, it's game time. It's game time, right? Shorting is so much easier, right? So much easier than longing, right? It really is. So there's always lots of opportunities, but I mean, maybe if we enter the bear market, we have a classic year, like 2022, 2026 is the schedule, right? Then yeah, maybe we are waiting 200 days till we bottom out, but it's not going to be all straight down, right? Now it may look straight down on the stock RSI because it's really smoothed out on as a momentum indicator on the 2-month chart for sure, right? So we're not going to, so but within that you're going to get loads of bounces, and I think we're very least we're due for a move up to retest the previous range, 106k, that sort of thing. So there's going to be lots of opportunities, but the last few weeks in altcoin gems, as an example, there's always been a short play, and what we will do is the more wherever direction the market goes, we'll start shifting maybe towards a 50% short setups for altcoin gems, and there's obviously much more in groups, and there's loads more shorts in the group, and 50% long trades. So there's always going to be something to trade. There's always going to be an opportunity, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily have a lot of experience shorting the market, but trading fear, it's a lot easier. And I hate to say that, but it is. Trading fear is a lot easier. And we look at the way the world is in the moment. It's all about trading fear, not just in the political arena, in the financial arena. It's in all of the arenas, right? Fear is king right now. So I don't mean to get excited on such a thing, but there's loads of opportunities. But no, I don't think we have to wait 200 necessary days for anything. But if it is a bear market, then yeah, I mean, until Bitcoin starts being bullish again, for sure, and that's very sad. But we don't have to wait. I don't think we have to wait. There'll always be opportunities, always. Right, let's have a quick run through. So again, we're talking about. So look, I mean, again, and look, we're still here. There's still a lot of upside potential, right? And one thing Bitcoin does do really well is turn on a head, upend expectations. And I don't think Bitcoin's 2026 is going to be any different. I mean, here's just an example, right? So this was. We were looking for a confirmed break above the 20 MA and the 21 MA. And let's just switch this to the 20 MA. Again, these are sort of conversations we can have in our private group, which offer a lot of insights outside of the front-facing content we produce. So look, we've had a first cattle body close. This was James and another colleague in the group, which was identified this since December the 13th, right? But again, we're struggling to hold that. Again, we've had a candle body close below it, so it's going to be I think the next 2 weeks are going to be very telling about the direction of the market. And the whole title of this video was ultimately, are we going to see? Here's another triangle. Are we going to essentially be going up? Or are we going to be going down? Now, the first thing is contextually, if we go up, if we break up from here, let's just find the right chart. If we move up from here, okay, if we just zoom out, right, what are we, we're not necessarily going back to the moon again either. So ultimately, the price action is due arguably for a move back up to properly retest this area, right, at around 106, 107K. That would be perfectly normal, a bearish retest of that range before heading down. So my point is, even if we get a move up from here, it's not necessarily going to be party time, because, maybe we just get a retest of this level, which is 98K. So we come up and get a bearish retest and we come back down. It's only really if we break above this area, which is, approaching 110K, arguably 110K, that we're going to have a continued bullish sort of narrative, because we've had loads of key moving averages on the weekly chart lost. There's a lot of work for Bitcoin to do to offset the bearish narrative. So we're not going to, in January have all the answers, but the rest of the markets will be quite telling. Further data points for interest rate and so forth will be quite telling. And if there's any new regulation and so forth, and if there's, look, the thing is, right, there's so many factors at the moment. With the market. And what I mean by that is, let's just say in the United States, the Supreme Court, right, strikes down all of the tariffs which President Trump has put into place. Right now, markets arguably will see that as bullish, because we'll potentially be looking for have a more stable market compared to 2025, right? But that's not a clear-cut signal either, because that then opens up another door of chaos potentially for risk assets, because we're going to have an issue with do we get refunds to companies? Is that bullish? Is that bearish? Is that good for consumers? Is it good for traders? So it's all over the place. We have the fears of a potential tech bubble forming as well. So there's a lot of things. So what I preach in group is this, right? Presume downside until we see something which suggests otherwise, right? And we just have to be cold, calm, calculated. And I imagine people in group are get a little bit frustrated sometimes because I'm just saying the same thing like a broken record. But it's the way we get probabilities in our favor, and it's a way we don't get overextended. So you can have your positions in XRP, you can have your positions in these different assets, right? But you mustn't be holding them like say I would have done 5 years ago, which is just I hope it's going to go up and therefore I'm holding them. Like that's how like I used to trade as a beginner, right, in terms of investing. But now I am, the only way I've managed to maintain control of, say, my portfolio, which I started to form prior to the US election in 2024, right? Admittedly, some of my positions are out of reach right now, but because I've been scaling in and I've been going with the market and I've been trading signals. So I see a bullish signal, I enter a position in November 2024. And then I wait to see what happens in January. And because I do that, I am still in control of a significant portion of my portfolio and allowing myself to bring these positions down with the market, right? And it's that skepticism which has allowed me to maintain control, as opposed to someone who invested in Ethereum when it was at the top back in December 2024, and is now just waiting for it to recover. So crypto is a volatile class, and we have to treat it as such. And unfortunately, because we've lost the repeatable cycles we've had, in terms of the altcoin season was supposed to kick off, and essentially when the election was in 2024, it started, but then it fizzled out because of macroeconomic conditions, right? So now we have very limited precedent, very limited historical data to take into account and assess what's happening in the market. Now, Bitcoin's extended bull run, it has been the longest bull run we've had, arguably, gives us an indication that we may not have the traditional bear year, and that we may have a move back down to maybe 69K consolidation, and then we start away again maybe in the second quarter, right? We may see that, and then that's altcoin season, where typically would be a bear market, because as we've talked about at the start, we just don't know. The altcoins has got some upside, but then if we start losing these key levels for altcoins, and then Bitcoin continues heading down, then we start to lose that narrative, as 49K for Bitcoin is still on the cards on higher timeframes. So there's a lot to take into account, but you can also look at certain assets to see the general idea. So let me just show you NUM for a minute, if I can find it. Thank you, TradingView, for doing that. This is NUM. Now, NUM is something which I have been invested in, and it's been really struggling. Let me just try and copy this chart, because we can't see what's going on. Here we go. So this is NUM. Right, here we go. So this was a setup I posted in group, and it's playing out perfectly. It was essentially inverse head and shoulders play. We had a nice breakout, perfect retest entry, and so far we've hit TP1, and that's 20%. Now, why is NUM reversing? Right? Why is NUM? Well, it's a low cap firstly, so it doesn't take much to reverse, but there is people in the market which are thinking potentially that we're going to have a recovery here. Now, not all assets are responding the same way, but look, XRP, it's just sitting here, right? It's just sitting here. It's like getting so close to this breakout of this channel, right? Look at it. It's just getting squeezed, but it's waiting for something. And if we don't get it soon from Bitcoin, we'll lose these key levels. And again, what are we waiting for from Bitcoin? We are waiting for, drum roll, a break of 89K, a proper confirmed break of 89K. And if we don't get that, then NUM will disappear, right? NUM will start heading down. Where's NUM? That's not NUM, that's NEO. And we'll start heading down and resetting and so forth. So, and then XRP will continue downwards, and it won't be able to get, because already, if you notice on XRP, this is the 200 MA on this, the 4-hour chart, and we previously had nice confluence, but now we're losing it, making it a slightly more difficult proposition for a breakout here, because we're running straight into resistance. So it's a very complicated picture, but we can't really say anything with any kind of fervor, any kind of confidence until we have a clear, definable direction from Bitcoin. And I'm really sorry to tell that to people, but ultimately that's the game sometimes. But here's the thing, right? 2 students recently just got in touch with me to ask for lessons, right? And they're the first couple of students I've had in recent memory which have got in touch with me when the market is down. Now, I think their potential, man, there's my left hand again. I'm so sorry, James. I think those are the sort of people which I think could do well in the market, because they're not getting in touch with me when the market is green. They're getting in touch when the market is down. So you should all be planning all your positions and your potential ideas for either scenario. So you should have positions ready and planned for Bitcoin to break above 89K and move higher. And you should be prepared for other setups for short plays, or looking for maybe lower support entries on some altcoins if Bitcoin heads down, and use this time to plan, right? So it's not suggesting you're sitting here twiddling your thumbs looking at the screen. You should be planning, right? And this is the thing. Don't wait for the market to move to plan. Plan before the market moves. That's what professional traders do. That's what the most experienced and the most successful traders do, right? And they are ready. And therefore, the two students which got in touch with me, surprisingly over Christmas, just to talk about learning about crypto, complete newbies, they've already got an advantage, because they're thinking about it outside of FOMO and fervor, right? Where usually people get in touch when Bitcoin's breaking all-time highs, right? They're getting in touch because they want to get into crypto and they want to make it learn about the market, because it's the future of trading potentially, right? It's the future of finance, right? That's why they're doing it. So, the whole crypto space isn't just about whether we're going up or down anymore, right? It's about tremendous opportunity across the board, right? In terms of tokenized stocks, all of these sort of things, right? But and it's going to be exciting. I think 2026 is going to be exciting. And I think when we're talking about this at the back end of 2026, I think we're going to have a very different story to tell about crypto. And that my hope is that we're saying things like, well, I think we've got solid evidence now that the rest of the crypto market is decoupling quite significantly from Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin has probably broken its 4-year cycle. And it looks like we're going to have more bullish momentum more consistently going forward, and less bear time, right? And I think that might be where we are. But ultimately, this is the game, and January the 1st is not the best day to be assessing this. But again, this is a tradable thing. But ask yourself this, right? What signals do I need to see, right? Not just a little break, a clear break, and a break of previous swing highs, trend dynamics, all that sort of stuff. And this is what you should be doing. Plan all these. Look, I've got all these tabs up, all these different things I'm planning, right? ICP, here's a great opportunity. ICP, now ICP is moving a little bit today. It's looking like it's recovering. ICP is at long-term support, right? If the market goes, we've got an opportunity, right? Plan it, be ready for it, right? Zoom in, find your setups. Let's go. This is what we should be doing. Let's have a look at Sol. Sol's not doing great, okay? But again, Sol will recover, right? You've got a line in the sand, okay? So if the market shifts, I need Sol to come back above this, then I'll look for an entrance, and away we go. There's your plan, done. Okay, and what else we got here? This is Link. Likewise, Link. Okay, right, so what do I need Link to do, right? Well, it either needs to come back down to support, and then I'll look for an entry, or I'll come up here for a short play, or I need it to break above here, and then look for an entrance, right? All of it requires patience. All of it requires waiting. But if you've got 20 setups and charts planned, 1 or 2 of them will align, and you trade those, right? It's as simple as that. So lots of exciting opportunities, but I think I'll probably leave it there because I've just been yabbering again. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. Happy New Year. We'll keep you all updated, of course. Altcoin Gems will be out tomorrow. Again, if you haven't checked out Bitcoin Update for a bit of an understanding as to why the Bitcoin has been a little bit, where is it? The Bitcoin has been a little bit stagnant, then check that out, and it offers a lot of insights, and we could be into an explosive January as a result, regardless of the direction. And those trading opportunities, of course, don't care whether they're short or long. We just need to capitalize on them. So thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, James. Great to have you here. Yeah, I need to have a banana or something. My head is spinning. Thank you, everybody. Take care for now. And of course, check out James's video from earlier today. It's really great. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Take care, everybody. All the best.